Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural divine heirs. Today is December the 8th, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar, 1443 on the ancient sun calendar, and 2022 on the Greco-Roman calendar. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is a sovereign living ancient Article 3, Moorish American Al-Moroccan Universal Court action. We are the sovereign living justice in capitis diminution nolo in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. I am sovereign living justice Pauline Denise Ritchie. My free chosen sovereign appellation is Light Tajiri Bay. Both are in capitis diminution nolo in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. All Moors are the original indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the original indigenous de jure empire state for Morocco. We are the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government. We are ancient Washington District for Colombia. We are the Universal Moorish American Consulate and the Universal Moorish American Consular Court. One moment. Make sure. Okay. We hereby, Islam. Okay. Thank you, Empress. We hereby exercise all of our sovereign rights. We are exercising the law by our sovereign capacity, which is the original indigenous natural divine sovereign ancient Article 3 living United States District for Columbia Court. And we are the sovereign fiduciaries, secured creditors, executors, trustees, ministers, possessors, and beneficiaries in this cause for action. We are peace. We are one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby accept our sovereign ascension, issue a universal creditor's bill for possession against all judgment debtors, and exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time. Nunc pro tunc. Today is the final day of our 3-day fast, and hopefully your fast has been productive. We're excited about that. We want to give you a quick reminder that December 21st through January 31st, which is 40 days, we will also be eating no land animals during that time for that 40 days. So it is a 40-day fast from all land animals. Any animal that has walked on the land, we will not be eating those animals to honor our peaceful return back to the land. So feel free to harvest from the sea, any and all, as much as we all choose, and then we want to stand on the land peacefully and have it so that there is a consecration of the animals back onto the land as well. And again, we're not stating that there's anything wrong with eating whatever you eat, because ultimately the ancestors within you will tell you what to eat and what not to eat. So we don't set any of that in our nation. That is the Moors govern themselves. Okay, but we like to unify and do our fasting together with intention. And the intention of that fast is the celebration and to honor our peaceful return back to our land. And we want to state that we never left our land, but the acting that was going on in the last era, we're glad that that's over, and we are returned back to the land. So we want to commemorate that and celebrate that. Our Prophet Noble Drew Ali's born day will be January 8th, so we're going to be all fasting together even on that day. Moorish American Week, which is every week for us, every 7-day cycle, is January the 8th through the 15th. again, so what we're doing is not falling, is rising in all that we do. So with that being said, I want to, before we get into our subject matter, I want to bring forth a couple of things that we have seen out on the spellways. People cast spells out there. That's what broadcasting is. They call it broadcasting because there's spells being cast and broken. And so we want to put the question to you, and we will go ahead and put the meeting in so that any who want to respond to this question can do so. The question is, how many sovereigns does it take to make a government? And some of you that I've spoken with about this earlier this week, if you want to respond, you can. If not, Islam.
Is it 20?
That's a good number. That's a good number. That's correct as well. There are other numbers as well. Islam. I see in the chat, Islam Empress.
Well, 2 or more gathered is government, but also if you look at the word government, which is govern and ment, which is to control the mental, the one is the first government.
Yes. Islam, that is absolutely hitting that nail right on the head. Because we're hearing people say, on the public, and this is Moors, that, that they, and we honor them because they are doing work, but they don't yet get that, what the word sovereign means. In the chat, it says 1, it says 13, it says 2 or more, etc. Just know that we are the 3 in 1 also, okay? And so it only takes 1 to govern, okay? But some seem to think that, oh, they only have 30 or 40 or 50 people. That's not a government. And every time I hear it, I chuckle a little bit, and then I send some positive energy their way, for those who feel that, there's that we're not governing just because of a number that they have in their head. And so to back that up, just to add a little support to it, not that we need any, because our word is enough. If we say it only takes 1 more one sovereign to govern, then okay, if that's what it takes, because that's what we said, because we're the law, remember? And so does anyone know, a second question, and this is just us talking, how many, because see, some say 30 and 40 and 50 is not enough to make a government. But see, they only say that because of because we look just like them, the ones who say things like that. And so, and again, we're not bashing them. We love them. We just want this to be put on the record. So the second question is, how many signatures were on the Constitution? How many? Does anyone know? You can star 6 if you know the answer. Islam, nobility, noble consul.
1.
No, there was about 56 on there, I think. 53, somewhere in around 49 to 53 signatures on the original Constitution, if I'm not mistaken.
Islam, 29.
No one has been right so far about that. Empress D. Michelle has the answer in the chat. It's 39.
39.
Yes. So all of you were close, but 39 is the right answer. So I say to you again, how many sovereigns does it, and I'm not saying that those were sovereigns that signed it. How many people does it take? How many sovereign Moors does it take to put on the public record that we're the government?
1.
1. And that's all it takes is 1. But see, some are saying 40 and 50 people do not make a government, but then they'll turn right around and quote the Constitution, and it's got 39 signatures on it. Do you consider those signatures as government that signed the Constitution? So what we're saying is that, first of all, it only takes one sovereign because we're the law. We all are the law. Second of all, it was only 39 signatures on the Constitution. There were, Noble Phoenix said 56 or something close to that. There were 55 in attendance and 39 signed at that constitutional convention. And those 39 signatures, the whole earth has said that that's a government. And we say that if those were sovereigns, it's a government. So, let's sometimes, and to me that shows that the program is programming. When I hear things like that, the programming for those who say that is just still there, and they still don't see it. They still don't see that they're programmed, because when the hybrids, or ones they thought were hybrids, did it, they acknowledged that, the Constitution is, the law, supreme law of the land. But then here we are, sovereigns. It's how many sovereigns, and we can't even just trust. We cannot believe the numbers that's showing here, because when I get the report, it says that there are hundreds of people on this call, and that's every time. Right now, it's saying that there's 57 people on the call. On the call, that's enough. That's enough. We're government. Believe it. Know that. Do some study. Get studying so that you can see and know. 39 hybrids get together and everybody's, that's the government. No, it's not, actually. Not on this land, it's not. It's us. There are some governments that only have 10 or 12, but you know what? We recognize them as Moorish governments. We recognize them. There are some temples that only have 9 people that are in superior positions in their temple. If they're de jure and following the law and being the law, we acknowledge them as government too. They are government too, along with us. So I just wanted to put that on the public record, because, and here it is, and this is really small. You can barely see it. But it says here the number of delegates who attended the convention was 55. The number of delegates who signed the Constitution was 39, and that was done 1787. So with that being said, one other thing that I want to bring up before we get into our subject matter. Many can feel in the atmosphere that there was a certain kind of like a darkness or something, a type of a depression or a darkness. You can feel it you may not feel it in your everyday, in what you're doing, but you can feel it out in the atmosphere. And we know what that is. That is the cosmos, and it's over now, by the way. We'll show you something here shortly on the screen. But any time there is a change like the one that this transition that we have just gone through, where the heirs go from thinking that they're citizens to actually governing, the atmosphere changes that way, and it becomes very dark at first, and then the heirs become the light on the earth. This past, and I'll just read it to you what happened this past Tuesday to punctuate that. Just one moment. So the world's this is what they're saying. The world's population reached 8 billion in mid-November. And for a fleeting moment on Tuesday, that's this past Tuesday, December 6th, roughly 6.88 billion of those people were in darkness for just a moment. They were in darkness. At 2:56 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, December 6th, roughly 86% of the global population were in darkness, according to time and date. At this precise moment, it was nighttime all across Europe, Africa, and virtually all of Asia, while the rest of the world, to include the United States, America, the land, the living creditor United States, was still in daylight. Nighttime is defined as, and they give their definition of nighttime, when the sun is at least 18 degrees below the horizon, or a little bigger than a pinky and index finger, that, that's incompetent things right there. If the sun has set, but it is not 18 degrees below horizon, it is considered twilight. So we know that the change has already taken place. They called that time, they were stating that that time was one of the darkest days in humanity, quote unquote, in the history of humanity. We know that the tide has turned. And that is yet another cosmological bit of evidence that says that the things have changed. We state that we have overturned the tables of the money changers at our temple. Our temple is the land, and that land is UK, America, Africa, all of our lands. And so the cosmos is reflecting that. So I found that interesting. Our congressional agenda today, oh my word. We are bonding together to build banking unity of purpose for our nation. This presentment today will break as we continue to implement it, because we're going to, this will be, this will be a topic, thank you, Empress. This will be an ongoing program or process, program and process. The meeting is unlocked, Empress. We need to break the final programming, I will say this, that dollarium broke some programming because we did not really know that we could print our own money and do all that we did. There was thoughts, some were saying, and this was Moors that are learned Moors were saying that we can't do that because of this, that, and the third. And again, we're not bashing anyone. We just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that we have the authority to print our own money. And as you can see, not a single Moor was violated for printing their own money. Not a single Moor was violated for printing their own money. No one could say that it was counterfeit. No one could say that it doesn't have value, because it does. And this process that we're doing now is going to put the final, break the final programming with regard to our money. And that is why Islam, I continue. It's unlocked now. He can come in. And we thank the Moors who remain persistent in coming into the meetings, because attendance is everything. We have to hear from each other, and so we appreciate the attendance. This is government. So yes, the meeting is unlocked. If you would let him know that he can come in. So with that being said, let us get into our presentment today. Just one moment. Did Justice Akil make it in? Yes, he. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Now, as we go through this presentment, keep in mind, Moors, that we have been programmed, okay? We were programmed against all that we're going to discuss today and all that we're placing on the table today in one form or another. But we must break the final program. We must break the final program. And we know how to do that. But it has to be done together. So let's move into our presentment. Our Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, and it is stated that he said, let me make that clear, because if we were not sitting at the table with the Prophet, and I don't believe anyone here was sitting at the table with the Prophet in the physical when these things were stated, then we don't know for sure that he said these things. But we looked at the hadiths that have been out there, and it is stated, and that's why we say what we say. But we know that our Prophet Noble Drew Ali knew, when he did speak, he knew what he was talking about. Some of the things that he said in support of our agenda today are the following. Unless we express ourselves through papers of our own, the truth about us will not be told. He also said one day every wheel of industry is going to stop, and when they start up again, it will be in the Asiatics' favor. Another thing that it is stated that our Prophet Noble Drew Ali said is one day the United States will not be able to do any business unless they do it through the Asiatics. He also, it is also stated that he said, if my principles are carried out, the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, the United States will be the richest and most prosperous country on the earth. If not, the worst is yet to come. That's important. And that is another affirmation of what we're doing. And then lastly, in the hadith, a beggar nation cannot attain to its highest degree of spirituality. What we're doing is manifesting our wealth through our own processes and programs. And we are talking about the Treasury bond program. Ecclesiasticus 9, chapter 9, verse 16 states that it says, I have decided that wisdom is better than force, and those who are wise will be despised if they are poor, and no one will listen to them. There are the greatest minds that have ever walked the earth on this call right here, right now. The greatest minds and the minds that hear this, some of the greatest minds that have ever walked the earth, bar none. I know that without doubt or contradiction. But you all know that too about yourselves. Who will who will hear us if we're poor? Many of us have had those close to us doubt what we're saying, and they don't support what we're saying, and so on and so forth. Or they They see some of it as being true, but they are waiting to see more. This is the opportunity for us to show more. And we don't have any points to prove to anyone but ourselves. So our Treasury bond program to open our national bank is rooted in our national CEDIS trust. And you all know what that trust is. That trust is, first and foremost, us coming out of our mouth saying we trust each other. It is a clear demonstration of our unity of purpose on the land and its proper rebuttal to the foreign energy that has been previously stating that everyone should prep for famine, prep for lack, prep for depression, and prep for poverty. We are unified in our vision and mission and preparations, not reparations. We are preparing for abundance, prosperity, and vast wealth. We're preparing to begin production of products and commerce made from the natural resources on our land for earth-wide tribution. And some say use the word distribution. That's fine when stated by us. It's what we intend for it to mean. We have demonstrated great upward movement by stopping the outflow of debt on our land until it grinds to a halt, as stated by our prophet Noble Drew Ali. We are his prophecies manifested in the flesh. And now we're creating the flow of prosperity, energy, by taking full advantage of this monumental duty to give to our very own nation for the first time in our lives so that our blessings will flow. We have stopped the debtor energy from flowing in our lives and on our land, and now we must get the creditor energy flowing, and no one can do that but the creditors. This living energy will flow. This living energy will flow by way of our sowing seeds into our nation. We have exposed the land. We can see the land. We're on the land. And now we need to start sowing. We're not just giving. We are putting savings in our very own national bank, which is another first in our lifetimes, while providing support for our economic life among the nations at earth. Allah is the best of all planners, and we are stabilizing our nation. Let me say that again. We're stabilizing our nation because our nation must stabilize. We're stable, and we're the only ones who can do that. We're stabilizing our nation by active planning for our bright, wealthy future right now. We're manifesting our full faith and trust in each other. And I will say this about this bond process, because we did state that we were going to continue to expand on the process until every question is answered, until every concern is addressed, until we're all 100% sure of exactly what we're doing here. This process from day one is going to stabilize our nation from day one. And we will expand on that in this presentment. In this presentment, the creditors to all the nations at earth, and this is all of us, will place on the public record the answers to the following 3 questions. Number 1, what is the purpose of the Treasury bond program and how does it work? Number 2, who is originating, governing, issuing, and administering the United States Treasury bond program? And number 3, what will we who bring our full faith and credit to the nation receive as the creditors for the United States Treasury bond program and as the creditors to all the nations at earth? These are the 3 questions that we are going to place on the public record. And Moors, if there's anything else that you want to add, any concerns that you have, any questions, please *6, and you feel free to stop us at any time within this presentment. So as we get into the presentment, we want to show you in the law with regard to public bonds in the scriptures and hadiths. And we've pointed this out before. We are making this a permanent part of this presentment. The Holy Quran for the Moorish Holy Temple for Science, chapter 25, a holy covenant of the Asiatic nation. This is where bonds are mentioned in the holy book. Ye are the children of, and again, this is past tense about us being children because we are no longer children. It says, ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, in the breast of one mother hath given you suck, which is past tense. Hath given, that means in the past. We're now fully mature heirs. It says, let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race. And we're going to actually change that to his whole nation. And his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. And we explained how bonds, what the prophet was really saying about bonds in this particular presentment here. This bond process will unify us further. We're already unified. We want to continue to unify and manifest our own national bank on the land. This will separate us from any foreign anything. I know in my knower that when our bank manifests on the land, and again, it has already manifested through us, but we want to manifest it even further. And this particular breaking of that final spell will make it so that no one can say that we're not properly bonded to the land, no taking of the Moors, because that is a part of the bonding process as well. And that is our main concern. Yes, our economic stability and the stabilizing of our nation is a top priority, but it's not the main priority. The main priority is that the Moors are safe, that the heirs are safe, and that no foreigners can take the Moors at will. And that is what our prophet was talking about here. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. The bonds of affection. We can bond our brothers and sisters out by creating our own bonds, as opposed to trying to gather fiat to get Moors out, which does not work. It says, so shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole nation, and his care be continued to you all in your love for each other. At this point, you know what this is saying? This is also saying that the father then turns things over to the heirs and the matriarchs. This is a turning over of everything. This is a handing off, a transition of everything. Okay. And so, chapter 47, Egypt, the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa, regarding the empire and her commerce. We won't quote that, but we wanted to highlight the word capital here, because the bonds are a way to capitalize on the energy that we have in our nation already. And again, it does not take 8 billion Moors to manifest our bank. It only takes enough of us. Okay? So, so let us, I see something in the chat that's a little interesting. And of course, it's coming from someone who has not quite done the study. We honor, if you are a sovereign Moor, we honor. A lot of times hybrids hide behind these identities here. But we want to continue with our presentment, but I did want to take just a moment to state that ones and zeros is not green paper notes, debt notes. Ones and zeros is not green paper debt notes. So let's bring out the elementary aspects of the process. Okay, ones and zeros running around in a computer, that's not fiat. Fiat is green debt notes printed by foreigners who are debtors. That's what fiat is. Okay. And then as well, we know that what we're doing is correct, and we have the support that we need for what we're doing. So let's see. I was hoping they would put some law in on what they're saying in the chat, but I don't see any law there. I don't see any substance there. I see names and things, but I don't see any substance there. So I'm going to presume that is probably a court gesture. I don't know, because we do not backed by gold or silver, and anything. Let me say this: anything that the heirs issue, the heirs are the gold and silver. Just let's be clear. The affidavits that we print up that have gold clauses in them, those are gold-backed documents. We are the land. We are the gold. So we want to ensure that everyone is aware that anything that is printed up by the creditor is a credit instrument. And for those who are the creditors to all the nations at earth, be sure you embody that in your spirit, that anything that comes from you is credit. Okay? Anything that you produce is credit.
Islam.
Period. Islam.
Yes. Just to chime in or to collaborate with what you said, confirming.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reason why they said years ago that you can put your signature on a piece of toilet paper and it has value. But the Europeans were using that because they were acting in our capacity as the real sovereigns of the land. They said that, and it was some Europeans who said that, some colonizers more specifically. Thank you for that correction. I saw it in your face. Some colonizers who said that, but it's true because they have been wearing our hats in our authority, presuming it until such time that we wake up. Yeah. So you're absolutely correct. Whatever we put our signature, because the signature is in the money. I'm sorry, the money is in the signature. Correction.
It's actually in our consent.
Yes.
And our signature, our autographs manifest our consent.
Yes. And then the same thing applies when you take that a step further. Not just the money, but what we speak out of our mouths.
Yes, it's credit.
So that's the reason why when we call them officer, you just gave them an appointment.
And we cannot do that.
And when you say your honor, same thing. You just put them in a position of being a judge, okay? Over you, no less, because you didn't state clearly your position. Yeah. So you basically became a subject when you should be the king, okay? The ruler.
Yes.
All right, Islam.
Islam. Thank you for that. That's, we're going to keep saying that, Noble Phoenix. Let's all just keep putting that on the public record as often as possible, that anything that comes from the creditors is credit, is gold backed. Why? Because these creditors, the sovereigns who are the creditors, are the gold. We're the land. We're the natural resource. We're actually the source of all natural resources. We actually literally have gold running through our veins. Literally. If you break down the chemical makeup of one of the airs, you will see gold and silver and precious minerals and rare earth minerals and etc. in there. Islam nobility.
The one other point you just mentioned, because we are the sovereigns, I just want to clarify for the larger group and those who will be listening afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons that they continue to pick us up, or were continuing to pick us up before this time period, okay, I'm going to say that past tense, is because many of us had not really done and stood in our true capacity as nobles, as Moors, and as true sovereigns. So as an example, what do I mean by that? When you say you're sovereign, they label you as a sovereign citizen because you're still in their system, what? As a subject slave, under the label black, Negro, colored, African, and you just filled out an application and you checked on the box so that you could get the benefit. You see what I mean? Black, Negro, colored, African, or whatever. Or you never undid the contracts, which is where the termination of contracts, of all corporate contracts, come into play. So until you rescind that, you really haven't fully proclaimed and stood in your nationality, in your sovereign capacity. Because as a sovereign, we should not be asking them for benefits. Period. You are the creditor. Why are you asking for benefits? Why are you begging for an application? Okay? Because we don't know how to construct our own currency and use our own credits. That's what this is about. That's why I'm here. That's why I came back when I did. See, most I knew it was time for me to come back. Okay, son, you don't like your lesson. Get on back out there and get back in the fight.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That is how it is done. Yes, indeed. We'll just keep saying it. We'll just keep saying it. We'll just keep putting it on the record that we're the creditors, and anything that comes from us, dollarium included, is gold backed, because we say it. We're the law. Period. Even in our sleep, they needed our assent or they couldn't move. Period. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. Because, see, what we're doing now is we're going to swing the entire banking credit system back where it belongs. Okay? And that is with a termination of all corporate contracts on the public record. That must be in place over any bank accounts. Put that document over your bank accounts. Okay? And over Cash App and all of that. Islam.
I have a question.
Yes, Islam.
I've been following your videos. This is my first call on. However, I was wondering, how do I get involved in assisting with the banking process?
The first thing you do, Empress, is if you've declared your nationality already and put it on the public record, you want to.
Because I have my daughters as well.
Okay. Have you done that already, declared your nationality on the public record?
Not on the public record. I'm working on it.
Okay. Do you know in your heart that you're a Moor and that your daughter is a Moor?
Certainly.
Huh?
Most certainly.
Well, then it's on the public record now.
Yeah, it's on the public record.
It's on the public record now because you said it.
Yes. I hadn't done it yet. I usually stay out of the light and until I get everything in order.
It's done now. All you have to do now is just manifest it on paper. It's done.
Yeah.
It's a wrap. You are who you say you are, who you state that you are. Islam. And we affirm
that I was more than what people would say that I am, because I never really felt like the things around me match with me.
Yeah.
And I would often ask the Creator, who am I?
Yes.
I know that I'm more than what they say that I am.
Yeah.
So this is like me coming home.
You know, let me just ask you something, because you said something real key there. You said that you asked the Creator who you were. When you got the answer, where did the answer come from? Did you hear something audibly, or did you just know in your spirit, or did you hear something in your consciousness? How did that answer come?
It's funny you say that. Usually I don't speak about it because I have a spiritual side. I heard it audibly.
And that voice came from within you, because you are your Creator.
Mm-hmm.
The Bibliotext says, let us go down and make man in our image and after our likeness. We did that. We all agreed to do that. So you are indeed, yes. So now, Empress, you just make it manifest. And your question was, how do you get involved in the banking process? The first thing we do is we get ourselves our status properly stated on the public record. Okay, and you've done that here vocally because your word is the law, and then you have it manifest on paper. Then we have the six documents that we do. The first document is the name change and judicial proclamation. That's number one. Those are considered one. And then the second document is a lien on the nom de guerre war name, because we're not at war, we're at peace. A lien on the nom de guerre war name and social. And that doesn't stop any benefits or anything. It just says you govern the benefits and no debtor governs your benefits. That's the second one. The third one is going to be a termination of all corporate contracts. The fourth one is a declaration of trust. And that's just a one-page document that says and it's on Moorish government letterhead, which all Moors have access to. And we'll have some Moorish government letterhead under this video as well. So you can just click one of the links and pull one of the documents and use the letterhead that you see there for your documentation.
Where could I get these documents from?
They're going to be, have you seen any of the videos on Light Tajiri Bay channel?
I have, yes.
Okay.
And I've been taking down. I gotta read a lot of them because there's a lot of downloads. But I did see like the documents under the different.
Okay. So those documents will be under. Yeah, those documents will be under. Yeah, you can get them from there. The name change and judicial property, you can download any of those documents and make them your own.
So you said the name change, the lien to the nom de guerre, the termination of contracts. What was the other one?
And then it's going to be a lien on the United States Corporation Company, a declaration of trust, and then the fiduciary document.
And all of this is in that page?
They will be under this video, and the documents that you saw. They're there.
And the fiduciary of
the fiduciary document.
Oh, it's just a fiduciary document. Okay.
Yes, it is a fiduciary affidavit, and we do everything first by affidavit, and put that on by government affidavit. So it's on Moorish government letterhead, and then you autograph it because you are the government, you are the law, and you govern your vast estate. And the fiduciary.
I have 6. So I have the name change, the lien, the nom de guerre, the termination of contracts, lien on the U.S. company, declaration of trust, fiduciary. What was the other one?
That's the 6. That's the 6. You have 6 there.
Oh, it's 6.
Yeah, it is. Name change, judicial proclamation is 1. Termination of all corporate contracts is 2. A lien on the nom de guerre and the socialist 3. A lien on the United States Corporation Company is 4. A proclamation of trust is 5. And then a fiduciary document is 6.
Oh, it's proclamation of trust.
Yes.
Declaration. Okay.
Yeah. Either way, either word is fine because you're using your own language, your national language. Our national language is ancient English. It sounds like we're speaking the same English as the others, but we're not. Ours is not. We don't spell the same way that we don't cast our spells and break our spells the same way that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why sometimes they'll say something like they'll say things and it doesn't, and it turns out to be something totally different from what we heard because they're not, their English is not competent. Ours is, because it means what we intend for it to mean. Islam.
It's the fast. Gotcha. All right.
Yes. Now those are the 6 things that you do first. That's going to put you squarely in the process of banking, because those things have to be done first. They are foundational. Okay.
Do you recommend to do registered or certified now?
We have a mailing process where you don't have to use fiat, and it's a certified mailing process. Are you familiar with that process? Have you seen the video? If not, you can go to Light Tajiri Bay channel, and there's a video that has a hand in front of it as the thumbnail. That's the mailing video.
Okay.
The mailing process. Get to know that process so that you're not using fiat to send your government documents.
Got it. Okay. That's under the post office?
It's under our government. But yes, you would. The post office is a resource, is our resource. So
right.
we do send them through the post office. We do send them through the post office.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Empress, and welcome to the call. We're so glad you're here.
The ancestors say, don't fuck that baby up by believing any of this monkey business. Not ever worked.
Also, we do have sometimes court jesters that come in and try and, disrupt the meetings, and we just use our gavel and we just boot them out. We render them mute. So with that being said, we're so glad that you're here, Empress.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Islam. And I'm excited that you have heirs, because that's our future. And
my focus has always been it's about them. It's like I have to do something for them. I don't want to repeat what my parents and my grandparents did with us and led us down this path. And I'm just very needed to be in these conditions at this moment to be able to come out of the exodus.
Yes, Islam.
Food drives or clothes drives or things like that.
Islam. So, just one moment. I think there's a little bit of, okay, there it is. There's a question in the chat, and I don't want to get too far off of what we're of our agenda. You will have to do the demonstration on whether registered mail works or not, and also you can use your own mailing location, and it will still work. For that mailing process. We stated to use Federal Way mailing location for Moors, because there were some Moors who were saying, I don't have a mailing location. And we wanted to just ensure that they demonstrated their sovereign status and that they did that with, at will. Okay. But you can use your own mailing locations. Islam. Indeed. So with that being said, I want to continue on with some things about the bonding process. Numbers, the 24th chapter, verse 9. Why do we quote the Biblios Heliotext? We quote it because it was originally written by the ancient Sibyls. Yes, it has been hypothecated, subrogated, and just completely misinterpreted in the most incompetent ways by foreign matter, but we put it in its proper place. It says, our nation is like a mighty lioness. When she is sleeping, no one dares wake her. Whoever blesses Israel will be blessed, and whoever curses Israel will be cursed. We know that this land is the Holy Land. We know that. And guess what? Those actors who were previously pretending like the Holy Land was someplace else are now stating that it's this land. And they have focused, and their attention was always on this land. Genesis 12:3, I will bless those who bless you, but I will curse those who curse you, and through you I will bless all the nations. This is one of the main keys of this bonding process and this program. And then in Ephesians 6:20 it says, for which I am an ambassador in bonds, that therein I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. The apostle who stated this was actually doing the same thing that we're doing. He was taking the bonds all over the nation and making sure that people get them. And because he was bonded through his own nation, he was able to speak boldly and not be afraid of being taken and done away with or put in a cell somewhere. So, and know this, when we refer to the Biblios Heliotext, everyone in the Biblios Heliotext was us. Let us make that clear. The Biblios Heliotext in its original form was ancient. And there were no foreigners or modern Europeans, and we're not mad at them. We love modern Europeans, but they were not around more than 6,000 years ago. Philippians 1:14, and many of the brethren in the law, waxing confident by my bonds, are much more bold to speak the word without fear. What is the word? The word is nationality. Nationality is the order of the day, and the whole Biblios Heliotext, that's what it's about. That's what it's about. So as they began to print their own bonds, they were, again, able to speak without fear. Philemon 1:13, whom I would have retained with me, that in thy stead he might have ministered unto me in the bonds of the gospel. He's talking about the difference between a consul and an attorney. And the Hebrew Bible, Biblios Heliotext, actually further explains it in greater detail. But you retain, see, we don't retain attorneys, but in our sleep, some were retaining attorneys. And what he's stating here is that he wishes that someone would have properly bonded him with the good news of nationality and printed out bonds like we're doing, instead of someone trying to speak in his stead who didn't know this good news. So again, it's all about, thank you, Justice Morpheus. Justice Morpheus put the mailing location, the mailing process, our Moorish government mailing process that does not require fiat, he put it in the chat. And for that, we're so grateful. And under that video, you will find the stamps that we use to put onto our documents in our envelopes. Public bonds are also found in the law at Article 4 of the Constitution, Section 1. Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state. And the Congress, which is us, may by general laws prescribe the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be proved and the effect thereof. We get to state what's going on, how our bond process works, how our Treasury works, how our courts work, all of that, we get to state that. And that is what we're doing. That is the purpose of these meetings, these congressional assemblies. Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution states that no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin, a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. That's just stating that the states cannot issue bonds, not federal bonds, but the federal can issue bonds. Now, the sovereign states can issue bonds, but where it says here, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, that is why our sovereign states can issue state bonds, because we're using proper gold and silver coin as a tender in payment of debts, okay? And so Amendment 8 says excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel or unusual punishments inflicted. And that's, again, talking about bonds. Emit bills of credit. Whenever our states do bonds or any type of issuing of anything, it first comes through the federal, okay? And that's really what Article 1, Section 10 is saying. When it comes through the federal first, for example, this bonding process will go to the states. So those of you who are at the different territories, the bonding process is ultimately going to provide resources for your states. And that's, again, what Article 1, Section 10 is about, is that states cannot on their own start printing up bills of credit and letters of marque and treaties and alliances, confederations, or anything like that, okay, or grant any titles of nobility. It comes from the federal first, which will automatically tie it to the supreme law of the land, and then the states, okay? So now, one of the questions that we said at the beginning that we were going to answer, what is the purpose of the Treasury bond program and how does it work? So the main purpose of the program is to build unity of purpose, write the vision, make it plain, so that he or she who reads it can run with it. So what we're doing is putting our national vision for having our own banking system on the public record for all of us to honor, because all of us have a part to play, to have a duty to fulfill in this banking system, in getting our banking system standing the way that we want to see it stand on the land. So again, as we continue to build unity of purpose, we're starting with a general fund with emphasis on our banking system. And so initially, we are accepting bank credits and gold for this program with the vision of stabilizing the following national gates. And again, this is a national stabilization process. And we have some things that we want to say about that with regard to the bank credits. For those who don't have bank accounts and bank credits, we just want your energy to be with us while we do this process. We all need to stay together, because ultimately when our bank is open, all Moors will have access to banking. They will have access to whatever is necessary for us to get the commerce going, like our prophet said, in the favor of the Asiatic. And we need to have our own banks on our land. Us, okay? Not a bank that's calling itself black. And again, we honor the work of those who are asleep, but they have to wake up and know that black is not a status. So we're stabilizing our Erudition Temples, The law, which is our courts. Our clans, domiciles, and the family unit. Our commerce, business, and merchant actions. Our government and military and security. Arts, media, and entertainment as well. Those are the seven places where capitalism was put forth the heaviest. So even for those who say, well, you know, I was born a Moor and I never had a Social Security card, but then if you went down to a bank, or you went to, or if you used fiat in any way, shape, form, or fashion, they were attempting to capitalize you and put you under their jurisdiction. And so we want to rebut that. We've done a great job rebutting it thus far, and we're going to continue moving in that direction. The bonds will underwrite our gold-backed Moorish sovereign dollarium and economic system, as well as our judicial system. Which are actually one and the same. Additionally, they will finance credit-producing activities such as banking, international trade, and commerce. They will fund Erudition Temples, security, highways, healing facilities, and other sovereign government necessities. The bonds will be issued from our nation's federal capital jurisdiction, which is here at Federal Way, Washington Territory, initially. And the reason we're starting it here, it's not the only reason, but the reason we're starting it here is because this is where the dollarium piece emanated from. And we have stated on the public record, and this I heard again from a Moor who did a video about 6 months ago. The jurisdiction here never changed from an ancient jurisdiction. It's always been an ancient jurisdiction. In other words, that capitalism, that fraudulent capitalism, was brought out here in the thinnest, weakest way possible. And all it took was for us to be here and to just start speaking on the public record for things to break down. Okay? We have stated on the public record and put it by way of affidavit and made it the law that this is our federal capital jurisdiction. And here's one thing we know about this Washington in looking at the records is that Washington, quote unquote, Washington, D.C., is a mini version of here. And this territory is, and it's not any more special than any of the other territories. Let me make that clear. We're not saying that. This territory is the only territory whose flag has a face on it. All the other flags did not have faces on them. This one did, because that was kind of like a hint to us that everything actually started here. So again, east will become west, west will become east, north will become south, and vice versa. That is actually true. The maps were indeed interchanged. Yes, the terms state and territory are interchangeable. Yes, we do, Noble Phoenix, that's beautiful. We do give full faith and credit to our own actions, records, and proceedings first, okay? And when we do it first, just like you said there you stated in the chat, then they must give full faith and credit for clarity. Yes, Islam. And so the bonds will be issued from here. We will, and again, this is just the initial bond process. Again, the states will have it's an opportunity, but it's also going to be the unifying mission of issuing bonds as well. So again, we will be focusing on the opening of our national bank and funding the Moorish merchants while preparing to open our Moorish Erudition Temples for our heirs, so that those are our schools, and those Erudition Temples are most important. Building our infrastructure and growing all 7+ areas of national development. And the 7+ areas are these areas here that we just mentioned. The types of United States federal, the United States Treasury creditor instruments. And again, we say United States, we're the states united. Our prophet knew that back then. He knew that we were not the debtor United States, because there's a hypothecated debtor United States, which is one side of the accounting books, and then there's the creditor side of the accounting books. We are the creditor side. And so that is what, first of all, our national status and our bloodline and birthright give us the authority to print the Treasury bonds. We're the only ones who can print creditor instruments. No one else can do that. And that's been proven by all of the debt instruments that were printed previous to us, to our awakening. Short-term Treasury bonds are short-term securities maturing in a few days to 52 weeks, depending on the agreement. Creditor Treasury note bonds, longer-term securities maturing within 10 years. And then creditor bonds are long-term securities that mature in 30 years. And they're all bonds, but they just have different maturity time frames. And the long-term securities that mature in 30 years are a great gift for grand heirs. Our government Treasury bonds, Treasury savings bond creditor instruments, are issued in bank credit increments of 20 credits, 50 credits, 100 credits, 500 credits, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, and 100,000 and up for nations, states, municipalities, governments, etc. And again, Moors, it does not matter the amount that you put in for the amount of bank credits that you move into this program, this bond program. There's a much bigger agenda behind the action. Gold tributed is calculated by the current price for gold per ounce, and the equivalent bond amount will be issued. And I've done this as well, put my own gold and silver and natural diamonds, and I didn't have a whole lot, but I had enough to tribute. And the third question, wait a minute, let me make sure we answered. That was the first question. The second question. Just one moment. Let me go back. Oh, we did answer that. The second question, who is originating, governing, issuing, and administering the Treasury bond program? Let me go down a little further for that one. We already stated that it is us doing that. Here is number 2. Our creditor United States Treasury bonds are issued by, with, and for the original, indigenous, ancient, anointed, sovereign people who are this true and living federal government. And when we say this, we mean all Moors, because all Moors are part and parcel for the government. Because our full faith and credit is vested in ourselves, we are stabilizing our nation and affirming our national trust. Our national bonds provide a longer-term, predictable savings and wealth equity stream. If the bonds are held to maturity, we get back the entire principal, so bonds are a way to preserve our gold-backed capital while investing. Bonds build trust and secure our wealth from generation to generation. Now, previously, one of the Moors asked me about, or asked the question about interest. And I thought again about the interest payments on the bonds. Now, we could do that because we're the Congress if we want to do interest payments on the bonds. And some of the Moors had said previously 3%, and I think we agreed on 3%. And since we agreed on 3% interest, we will stand by that, knowing that if we were doing this and handing gold bars out to people, there would be no interest, okay? Because there's no interest on gold and silver and natural resources. But when we're issuing things like bonds and instruments, negotiable instruments, there can be, okay? What will we who bring our full faith and credit to the nation receive as the creditors for the United States Treasury bond program? Our bonds are evidence of credit because of the maturity date. 100% of the principal is either returned to the holder or reinvested based on the will of the holder. Each and every exchange is an Article 3 court action that nationalizes the exchange regardless of where it comes from. So we're going to be, because it's a court action, if you'll remember, Moors, whenever we would go into those fake courts, they would automatically capitalize whatever name they had, okay? Well, we're doing the same thing. Anyone who comes to our court and does a bond process, our nation, so, and I'm speaking about the subjects now, our nation will capitalize that exchange, okay? And that type of capitalization is not an enslavement. It is an ownership in terms of the subjects being a resource on our land, because they're a resource also. And when we say a resource, they're here as subjects to be resources for us. The Biblios Heliotech refers to that as giving us the societies as our inheritance. Okay. Back in 1871, among the quote-unquote corporate Masonic few, they were stating that we, because we were asleep or enacting sleep, were their inheritance. Okay? So they took everything and turned it. And all we're doing is put everybody back on the land, everybody back in their proper and rightful place. And then it's also for their protection. Those who participate will receive a safekeeping receipt, which is a negotiable instrument and can be used as collateral for other financial endeavors with our bank, so that Treasury bonds can remain in savings and untouched until they fully mature. Now, for those who want to do the study on safekeeping receipts, study the process, the bond process that the foreigners enacted, where when the bonds were transmitted to the DTCC, which is the Depository Trust Corporation, by the quote-unquote Federal Reserve, and I'm putting that in quotes because they're none of that, it was placed in safekeeping, and they would issue an SKR, or a safekeeping receipt, and then they would proceed to borrow on the safekeeping receipt, which is what all of those who participate can do. Borrow on the safekeeping receipt. The receipt can be used to create financial, whatever securities or whatever else it is that the Moors want to do with those receipts. Okay? So, and meanwhile, you still have your principal investment in safekeeping maturing. Okay? So those who want to study that process, you can follow that process on how the bonds were transmitted to the DTCC by the Federal Reserve, where it was placed in safekeeping, and they issued an SKR, And when the SKR was issued, they would begin creating all types of crazy derivatives and just craziness out there and putting it on the stock market. Ours doesn't operate from a debtor perspective, okay? But with your SKRs or your safekeeping receipts, you can bring them to the bank and borrow on them. Meanwhile, so you can get double for what you've put into the process. And safekeeping receipts also, and this is stated, safekeeping receipts indicate that we are the holders in due course for a vast array of assets and natural resources. So those safekeeping receipts are proof that we are the holders in due course for a vast array of assets and natural resources. They ensure generational wealth for our heirs and their heirs for years to come, for generations. So we are demonstrating our unity with a purpose and a vision and a mission for our nation. Together, we have already proven by way of our massively successful lien process that we have removed our full faith and credit from foreign debtor hands. Okay? Just a moment. Let me make sure that that is properly stated here.
Islam?
Islam.
Let me ask you a question here. You mentioned utilizing the safekeeping receipts. And the illustration that you gave, perhaps you can clarify for me, but I feel that it's somewhat unintentionally misleading to say you can use the safekeeping receipt and go to the bank and borrow from it and so forth. Because I think in the minds of the listeners, they're thinking the normal banking, and when that's not a case at all. You have a gold-backed instrument. You have a physical, literal instrument, not a debt instrument. And the banking system as it is now can only loan anything which they have, which is only more debt. So that's why I felt like I needed to say something there to clarify that.
Thank you.
I don't want people to walk away with the idea you're going to take your safekeeping receipt and do traditional banking. That doesn't exist anymore. It's collapsing as we speak.
Okay.
So can you clarify that, please?
Yes. So a safekeeping receipt is a credit instrument. So when you take that credit to the bank, they can issue more of your own. Because see, really, more we are actually, any loans that are given are loans that we're giving to ourselves. Because that's actually the true definition of a loan, and we've put that in the chat and shown that in the older dictionaries. A loan is a gift from a sovereign. Well, as we're looking at this process, we need to remove any foreign matter from our thinking, because this is all us. This doesn't have anything to do with foreigners or debt. Okay, so when we go and get a loan, we're actually still using our own credit. Still using our own credit. And then, of course, we're going to pay back our own credit to ourselves because, again, the bank is set up by us. We have to have an organized manner by which it is run, it's operated. Okay, there will be no foreign matter involved in any of this. There will be no debt involved in any of this. So even calling it a loan, look at yes, please. And Moors, there are Moors who have dictionaries available at this moment. Thank you, Noble Phoenix. Because we want to make sure that we put all of that on the public record. If one of you could find that definition of loan in an old dictionary, because see, the foreigners were issuing loans, when you issue a loan to a minor, it's not the same as when we're issuing it to ourselves. It's kind of like going into your savings and pulling something out and then saying, I'm going to put this back in my savings in 3 weeks.
And yet, forgive me, and yet that almost seems like circular when you really listen to and you process what you're just saying. It's almost like circular reason. You're going around in a circle because you're going to the bank to get a loan. And why are you going to the bank to get a loan when you got all the credit in the first place? So what are they loaning you? So why are you going into a contract with any bank, okay, other than your own nation for the purpose of building with others, okay? Yes. And so you cannot really, we have to kind of step out of the old language, and I'm glad you mentioned for them to go to the dictionary of what loans and banking and everything, because we're going to be operating, and we have to, this starts that operation on a whole different level. Yes. And terms and definitions and words have to go back to their more de jure original meaning, not the way the conquistadors, the colonizers, have taught us by their, what do you call them, propaganda centers called educational systems, to believe that they are when that's not what they are. So please, everyone, be cautious when you're hearing these terms, these words that are being used, that you make sure you get the proper definition, like she's having us do right now, of what these things mean, and think hard and long before you jump out there. Okay? That's just my advice there. Peace and love.
We must get back to our own language. That means getting back to the proper definition of the words. Okay? Islam nobility.
I have definition of loan from Webster 1828.
Islam.
Loan, noun, the act of lending, a lending. Second definition, that which is lent, anything furnished for temporary use to a person at his request, on the express or implied condition that the specific thing shall be returned or its equivalent in kind, but without compensation for the use, as a loan of a book or of bread. Third definition, something furnished for temporary use on the condition that it shall be returned or its equivalent, but with a compensation for the use. In this sense, loan is generally applied to money, see lend. And the fourth one is a furnishing, permission to use, grant of use as a loan of credit. Loan, verb transitive, to lend, to deliver to another for temporary use on condition that one thing shall be returned as a book, or to deliver use on condition that an equivalent in kind shall be returned as bread, or to deliver for temporary use on condition that an equivalent in kind shall be returned with a compensation for the use, as in the case of money, at interest. Bills of credit were issued to be loaned on interest.
Okay, your voice is really low, and I don't know why it's usually really low, Justice Tonis, when you come on to the call. I can hear you, but some of the Moors cannot. So, but I'm going to pull up the definition on the screen from a Webster's 1828 dictionary as well, so that they can see what it was that you were reading. And this one is an unabridged Webster's. Unabridged meaning generally the first definition is the newest definition, and the last definitions are the older definitions. Okay, so let me just pull this up on the screen. Let's see.
Montina must have taken her meds tonight, just like the state of Florida.
Hold on for a minute.
And the Colts.
No one can hear you. Be quiet. No one can hear that. So let's see. Just one moment. Okay, so you read that from, he read that from Black's Law. Was it Black's Law or was it
Webster.
Webster? Okay, because my Webster it says here. Let me. In fact, I'll just take a photo of it and put it on the screen. And listen, Morris. Remember now, we were the ones. Hopefully, you can see this on the screen. We were the ones giving loans out to anyone anyway, to everyone anyway. Everyone who got a loan was using our creditor status to get that loan, okay? And then they were called depositors. Here, just one moment. Let me go back. Gee. And I'm going to take the time to put this on here because it is so important that we know what the meanings of these words are. And that we also know, just one moment, there it is. That we also know that that your in capitis diminutio minima, which is the name, the appellation in the sovereign-born appellation with the first letter capitalized and all the other letters lowercase, can grant a loan to your all caps. That's actually what's happening here. Now we can look at what the subjects enacted and know that they were doing the same thing. They were giving loans to themselves because we were not governing the process. So here, let me pull this up really quickly. Just one moment. Just one moment. I'm going to pause the sharing here so that I can pull this up because this is very important that we see this. And listen, Morris, it is no accident or coincidence that the word loan was made to give us such a sour taste in our mouths. Okay, that's not an accident. And it was programmed to mean something that we would have an aversion to. Oh, here it is. Okay. Just one moment. And so we have to be aware of that. Anything that elicits strong emotion, we have to take a look at it. Okay? We're giving the loans to ourselves. And it's really dark. Let me lighten it up a little bit. See if I can lighten it up a little bit. Here is the definition of loan. It's a bit dark. But it's all good. Can you all still see that? Loan. Number 3, a grant or gift from a superior. And they say this is obsolete, meaning it didn't mean that for them, for the modern ones. But its original definition was a grant or gift from a superior. Well, who are the superiors? R in capitis diminutio minima is giving the loan to R all caps. Okay, so loan does not mean what we were taught it means. Yes, I will open the. Just a moment. Let me make sure we're sharing also. Yeah, it's a little dark, but I think you can see where it says a grant or gift from a superior, obsolete. And then we can lend to ourselves. Okay, we can lend to ourselves. And that's what we'll be doing, because there won't be any foreign interlopers in any of the processes. So now, let me take the bonding process a little further in terms of what we're doing. And again, we were talking about the safekeeping receipts being instruments that can be negotiable instruments. You can bank with them. You can do whatever regular banking with it, except it's from a creditor perspective and not a debtor perspective. So regarding our bond program, this is something that I've been wanting to show you all, and I believe I showed it to you previously, but for those who did not see it, and this is regarding the citizens, the subjects being involved in this process. There are no entities at Earth that exist who did not get their existence from us. And it doesn't matter who they are. There is no entity at Earth that exists that did not get their existence from us. The sons of our sons vested all initial capital for every debtor state at Earth, to include those previously doing business as Jewish, quote unquote, and I'm putting that in quotes because that's not who they are, and those previously doing business as the debtor United States of America. Okay, and when you put something in quotes, that means it's not necessarily real. The son of our son, Ham Solomon, financed the United States, the debtor one, by way of lending to George Washington, who never repaid the debt. Whenever the creditors contracted with debtors, the creditors soon became co-debtors. And this son of our son, Ham Solomon, died in debt, trying to assist the United States Corporation Company, which started out in debt and stayed in debt. The debtor United States, we're the creditor side of that.
The only thing that Pauline is fasting from is things.
So that is how they started out, and that's how they continued. Okay?
Do you have any fucking idea what the fuck you're talking about, woman?
Just one moment. Let me remove all debtors from this meeting. So, Ham Solomon. Now, why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because there is indeed
maybe
something
you can put
that
up
is
salt and chitlins for.
There is, the Constitution talks about all obligations before this Constitution are valid. Okay. So let me just point out Ham Solomon. was a son of our sons. What is a son of our, or who is a son of our son? A son of our son is God has a son. God's son is called the Son of God. If that son has a son with someone who is not original and indigenous, then that son is called the Son of Man. Okay? That's the difference between the Son of Man and the Son of God. The Son of Man has a foreign mother. Ham Solomon is one of those. He was a son of our sons. He is on a stamp here. Contributors to the cause, they consider him a financial hero for dying penniless. And he was penniless actually because the Coinage Act didn't happen until 1792. But he was penniless also because he connected with the debtors, okay, and wanted to assist them. And at Philadelphia territory, this sign is in the Mikvah Israel. It's near the Mikvah Israel cemetery where he is buried. It says Ham Solomon, 1740 to 1785, financier of the Revolution, came to America, CA, 1772. Imprisoned by the British, 1776 and 1778. Lived in Philadelphia, 1778 to 1785. Active in its Jewish community. Didn't say he was Jewish, it said active in its Jewish community. A broker, he lent money heavily to support the war. It was never repaid. He himself died in debt. He actually financed the United States Corporation Company. Okay? So now, just one moment. Let me move that out of here. Yes, I know which is which. So, and I was watching a video the other day, and there were some.
Pauline is fasting from successful demonstrations.
There were some foreign subjects, on this show, and on this video rather, and they were sitting next to some who were claiming to be Jews. And they were making some statement about why is it that, quote unquote, state of Israel depends so heavily on the, quote unquote, United States. And the one previously doing business as a Jew responded by stating that the United States would not be if it had not been for this Ham Solomon. Okay. And Ham Solomon was called King Solomon in that day. Okay, let that sink in, because that is the same King Solomon according to their recent modern history. That is who they refer to as King Solomon. Another son of our sons. Now we just talked about the one who financed the United States, the debtor United States Corporation Company. Now let's talk about the ones who financed the ones that were previously doing business as Jews. Another son of our son, Ralph Bunch. And at this time, he helped the minorities previously calling themselves Jews to get financial assistance and recognition at the United Nations in 1946, so that they could proclaim to be a state in 1948. Now, we know that's just corporate. It doesn't really exist. Okay, we know that that's not real. That's corporate. But here is a photo of the son of our son at Palestine in 1946, assisting, and if you'll notice, this is their military, and he's consuling them, counseling them. Okay? And then here he is with some of the Moors back in that time period, some of the ambassadors and prime ministers from some of the other nations as well. Moors. Okay? And then here is the son of our son, Ralph Bunche, with the subject previously known as John F. Kennedy. So none of these, the quote-unquote state of Israel or Jewish state, none of them could have existed had it not been for our sons and the sons of our sons. And neither could the debtor United States. None of them could have existed without us. It all started with the Moors, and that's, you know, we can go back and forth about all of that, but it is what it is. It's right here. And these documents come from, you can see here some links. I would encourage you, Moors, to read some of these letters that I found in doing this research. Okay, just a moment. Let me put that out of here too. Yep. No court gestures allowed. Goodbye. Okay. I would encourage you to just take a moment and read, okay, some of those letters, because they're very telling. I'll show you one here really quickly that proves that, number one, we were not the minorities. We never have been the minorities. The minorities have always been foreigners on our land. Okay? Here is a letter from Walter White, from Ralph Bunche to Walter White. This was done in 1946. It's in the records, and he's speaking about the ones previously doing business as Jews. It says, Walter, it seems to me, let me make this as big as I can make it. Let's see if I can make it just a little bit bigger. Okay. He says, Walter, just a moment. He says, it seems to me that among the things you might wish to emphasize would be the following. And he's telling him what to say to the quote-unquote United Nations about the quote-unquote Jews. He said, it seems to me that among the things you might wish to emphasize would be the following. The special problem of human rights with relation to minority groups, because no one respected them because they knew it was fraud. It says, number two, the approach to the question of the effective application of the provisions of a bill of human rights once drafted in specific countries. Number three, means of obtaining the views of representatives of important minority groups. And again, they needed representation, not us. We never did. Number four, consideration of the special position of colonial peoples with respect both to the substance and application of a bill of human rights. And again, colonial peoples, that's not us. You can't colonize your own land. And then number five says representation for colonial peoples, said colonial peoples. It says, I suggest these points at this stage since the commission is now only nuclear and is concerned mainly with organizational questions now. In other words, they're trying to decide how to organize themselves. Okay, now we were organized since ancient times, so we know they're not talking about us. It says, I'm running out to Hunter this AM and we'll pick up the document you sent me out there. We'll read it on the way back and give you additional comments at this afternoon's meeting, Ralph. Okay, so they're the ones who needed the assistance. Okay, and you can again look at us and from even photos of your grandmothers, and you don't see photos of your grandmothers in chains. Okay, so with regard to our bonding program, again, the subjects, they can tribute as well. They contribute so that our national bank stands, and so that the commerce and all of that stands. They contribute. So some of the final points that I want to make about this: our bonds are evidence of credit and are available to everyone who chooses to sow seeds into our ancient nation. Starting January 1st, 1442, which is 2023 on the Greco-Roman calendar, we will begin issuing the year one Treasury bonds. To sow your seeds by bank credits, please use the following Cash App and credit transfer information. And I'm putting this here, but listen to what I have to say about this. If you choose not to do it, okay, just hear me out on this, because I know that the programming is doing what it does. That's why they call it programming. The following must be included for proper credit and printing of your bond, of your safekeeping receipt, and the bond as well. So there will be two instruments created: a bond and a safekeeping instrument. Sovereign-born appellation as given by parents. Okay, and then for the subjects, whatever name your parents gave you. Okay, and again, we're not belittling, denigrating, or any of that. Our subjects, we love our subjects, and you know, we created them, and you know, we did that for a reason. All of our creation we love. The sovereign security number for the sovereigns, the social security number for the subjects, a mailing location for the sovereigns and address for the subjects, email address, and bond amount. To the question of why Cash App, etc., okay, we state that it is convenient for the people who are the government, and we further state the Declaration for the Rights of Indigenous People, Article 39. Article 39 states that indigenous, and I put their version of Article 39, and then I put our version of Article 39. Our version states that indigenous states, nations, and governments have the right to access nationalized financial systems, banking systems, commercial systems, technical systems, and otherwise, for unlimited enjoyment and use at will in support for the rights contained in this proclamation or otherwise stated. Their Article 39 is written as such: indigenous peoples have the right to have access to financial and technical assistance from states and other international cooperation, and through international cooperation for the enjoyment of the rights contained in this declaration. The reason I reworded it is because this wording is actually a little bit tricky. And the trick bag in what they say, which is why we reconstruct everything here, is that it says indigenous peoples have the right to have access, not govern. We govern our nationalized financial systems. Indigenous people have the right to have access to financial and technical assistance from states. They're stating that as if the indigenous people are not the state. We rebut that and say that we are the state. Okay, so we rewrote it according to our will. And then our previous peace banking campaign to spread our gold-backed more sovereign dollarium currency out to the nations at Earth has been 100% complete success. And this is part 2 of the lawful money campaign which means that we are accepting bank credits, which is electronic funds transfers, Cash App, etc., whatever is convenient for us, in the transfer of the bank credits and gold jewelry included, and I've already put my jewelry up as well. Only at this time, we're only accepting those two at the mediums of exchange at this time so that we can match up the gold and the bank credits with bank printings of our currency. Okay, so we're matching Moorish sovereign dollarium with the bank credits because we've been hearing, about the commercial viability. We're the only ones who can make our own money commercially viable. Okay? Having our own truly gold-backed bank is one of our top priorities. It is written that all who bless our nation will be blessed. That includes when we bless our own nation first. Blessing our own nation first is unity of purpose. It binds us together with the same vision, mission, and purpose. We should be first in line to bless ourselves and our heirs. Now, for those who choose not to participate in the rise of our banking system, we suggest that you set aside 10% for yourself each month. Now, how you do that is up to you. But we say still set aside 10% for yourself if you choose not to participate in this rise of our banking system. We are to pay ourselves first, and this is the way that we're doing that nationally, on a national and international scale. And this court affirms that this national treasury bond presentment is a way to do so that will ensure the longevity and stability of our nation through our own full faith and credit. We are preparing the way for those who are soon to awaken and soon to be birthed for our great and powerful nation. Okay? And that is our presentment. And we can say bliss or bless, because when we say bless, it means abundance, because we're speaking ancient English and not corporate or dead English. Islam. Yes, Islam. Technical assistance, we got it. We will do what we need to do. We have Moors who know what to do with regard to that. Now, there was a question in the chat about Ralph Bunch and Ham Solomon. Are they righteous Moors or are they dirty Moors? The question is, who is their mother? Who is their mother? That will determine whether they're Moors or not. Because nationality is granted by way of mother. Now, they are the sons of our sons, so they are still our responsibility. Okay. That's just the way it is. They are our responsibility. So we do claim the sons of our sons who have sons with hybrids. You know what? That distortion is well deserved, actually. I know our ancestors are doing it because we're not. Our ancestors are doing that. So, in terms of making all of that loud noise just be distorted. So with that being stated, are there any other clarifications? Is there any way to clarify this more so for where we're going and what we're doing? Because this program is coming from all of us to the nations at earth. It is also redemption for, and that's why we brought up Ham Solomon and Ralph Bunch, because it's redemption for the debtor United States, those that were previously doing business as that, and those that were previously doing business as Jews. This is their opportunity for redemption as well. This is a redemption process and a redemption program. One thing we do know about those that were previously holding all of those bank credits is that the rest of the earth will not take those bank credits from them. They don't want them because whatever they print out is always fiat. And so the bank credits then coming to the Moors and being capitalized and under our jurisdiction, we can print our gold-backed lawful money and have the bank credits match with the money and underwrite the money. So that's all we're doing is taking Moorish sovereign dollarium, our gold-backed currency, to that final breaking of the programming and putting things in place the way it should be put in place for us. So are there any other questions, comments about anything that has been stated here? Can we clarify any further anything that we stated?
Islam,
Empress.
Question on if one were going to pledge jewelry, for instance, it's by your word. Or, I mean, that's basically, we don't actually have to physically, if one had any, physically. So it's by your word, everything. Okay, wonderful.
The jewelry is going to be by your word. It's on your honor. And when our bank opens, we'll have safety deposit boxes to put it in if you want to put it in there.
Okay, wonderful.
But you know, it's by your word. We trust. We have to trust each other through this process.
Absolutely. Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Islam. And it does need to be jewelry that's in your possession, you know, instead of it being at grandma's house or, you know, someplace else. It needs to be jewelry in your possession, and that's on your honor.
Okay, wonderful.
Islam.
Question.
Islam.
Okay. All right. So my question, I received your communication when you sent the dollarium. And, so the question then, when we're sending back the 10% or let's say 500 sovereign dollarium, and we print those out, sign those documents, sign those the lawful sovereign dollarium notes. Okay. Those are being used for what again? That's a contribution for the what? I'm a little not clear.
So I have begun, or this government has begun accepting dollarium for value. We have. Regardless of whether there was this type of underwriting or not. So when we get the dollarium, we actually note it in our bank records, and then we deposit it in our government bank. Okay, and the only reason that we suggested, because that's a suggestion, it's not mandatory. The only reason we suggested that is to get people printing. And I will say that the Moors printed and printed and printed, and we have trillions and trillions and trillions. And again, remember, see, we had to note it. Why did we have to note it? Because it's an autograph on it. It's got a sovereign autograph on it. So it actually goes on the books of our bank.
Okay. Now, okay, so you're accepting them and you're noting them in the Treasury, okay, but they're not being assigned
at the bank, not the Treasury, the bank.
Okay, thank you for that correction.
Yeah.
So at the bank, not the Treasury.
Not the Treasury yet. Not the Treasury.
All right. So then, is that showing up as a deposit into their bank account or not? That's something totally different. Is this just to fund the bank? I need clarification.
It is actually energy it's showing up as a donation to the government. It's showing up as assent to use dollarium and to support the use of our national currency.
Okay, now
our assent is everything.
I'm glad you said that, because what you just showed and what you just told me, and this is going back to the point that I made earlier, we have to give our documents full faith and credit.
Yes.
First. And so what you're saying is we're demonstrating literally that we are giving full credit to our dollarium by using it to fund with our signatures, because The money and the wealth is in your live energy as an heir. And so when we put that on our instrument and we use that in our banks as a donation, because, listen, it doesn't matter which denomination you use, when we're giving our full faith and credit to our instruments to fund our bank, it's for our collective wealth.
Yes.
You're not doing anything against yourself. You're not doing anything to hurt yourself. It's all to benefit all of us individually and collectively. More importantly, collectively, and for future generations. Okay, I get that. Now, that leads me to the second part of my question. The bonding process. Okay, I'm a little unclear there. We're at this point, we're not accepting dollarium for bonding, but yet you mentioned utilizing Cash App and some other means. That's strictly for the bonding process. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so but where is Cash App? What does Cash App have in it? As an example, it has in it
ones and zeros.
Ones and zeros.
Yeah.
Which is not real money and is not backed by anything because it's all fiat.
Yeah. Yes, and that's why I'm saying that our dollarium, along with our status, and the ones and zeros just make it easier to move, so that Moors can see when they log on, they can see their dollarium going from this place to that place. That's all it is. That's all banking has ever been.
Yes, it's basic accounting is what it is. And in order to, and this is the part that a lot of our people, we're going to have to do some I don't want to use the word demonstrations, but some edification instruction classes, for lack of a better word, on basic accounting, because I'm amazed at how many people don't have the basics of basic accounting because it was not taught in school. I took several years of accounting because at one point I thought I wanted to be an accountant. All right, I'm glad I didn't go that route, but I would have been ideal in there because I'm very technical. But nevertheless, it is basic accounting, and that's all that they have been doing. But because they didn't teach that, we don't understand the financial system when the financial system really is, as you said, basic accounting. And your business was supposed to be worked that way. Your business life was supposed to be that way. Basic accounting. Yep. Okay? All right.
So,
I think I'm a little bit clearer now.
Yes. Now, to camelback on what you're saying, if I were to send Moorish Sovereign Dollarium to any of you, bank credits would follow so that you could go down to the grocery store and use it.
Bank credits from who? From our bank?
From me. If I were to give you Moorish Sovereign Dollarium, if I was to say, Noble Phoenix, I'm sending you 500 Moorish Sovereign Dollarium, 500 bank credits would follow, so that you can use whatever means you accepted the 500 Moorish Sovereign Dollarium. You could use that wherever you want to use it.
I'm going to need some assistance with which video covered that. I know you went over this before, and I don't want you to spend time doing it now. I don't mind going back, and because I told you before, I got a lot of catching up to do.
Yes.
When you talked about the demonstration of, I guess, using dollarium and setting up the account with their system, like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, as a creditor, and putting in creditor deposits with our dollarium, et cetera, and then also utilizing our receipts when we do a creditor receipt, et cetera, for a transaction, putting that in, and then generating creditor credits, bank credits. So which video covers that?
Several of them, and I can't specifically point out which several. I apologize. You can look at the titles though and see which one it is. The titles of the videos will tell you.
No, there's 50 of them, and I'm like, I can't go through all of the big videos right now. I'm trying to narrow it down because I have an immediate, thing that I'm trying to take care of, and there's only so many 3 hours in it. Every video is 3 hours.
Yeah. And I actually tried to shorten them, but our ancestors want this out.
Yes. We need it. We need the info, and we need the knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay? Some of us will pick up faster than others, but we still need it.
Yeah, and you know what? No one will be left behind because we're all doing this together. No one will be left behind.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. Peace and love.
Islam, peace and love. Thank you for your questions, Noble Phoenix. We're so glad you're back. It says, do we now need both dollarium and bank credit? Until we open our own bank, and when I say open, I mean manifested on the land where you can go into the building and do banking. Okay? And when you do that, when you can go into the building and do banking, if someone says, I need to withdraw $500 from the bank, we're going to issue 500 gold-backed dollarium. And if they come, and they can go out to the ATM and put that in there. 1-to-1, Noble Phoenix, 1-to-1. And again, that's gold-backed United States dollars. That's gold-backed United States dollars. The exchange rate for dollarium and United States dollars is 1-to-1. That's a great question. Thank you. See, right now, the bank credits that are in these banks, the banks are confiscating them because they don't belong to debtors. They belong to the creditors. And when listen, you're hearing how many of you have heard that people's bank accounts, quote unquote, people's bank accounts are being closed without any notice or anything? They're shutting them down. Have any of you heard that?
Islam, yes.
And there's some yeses in the chat as well. So let me say this. It happened to someone at this territory 3 days ago. And they sent me a text message. They closed all my accounts. I said, that paperwork, you can't be on the line. You got to be in your proper status. Because they were doing things part citizen and part Moor and part citizen, and you can't be on the fence with who you are. You got to be yourself. Okay? And so with that being stated, where do you think they're taking those credits and putting them? First of all, it's debt that they're taking. Okay? The credit gets to stay because the system belongs to the creditors. But they're taking debt from debtors. All they're doing is saying, you're bankrupt. That's what they're telling them when they confiscate. They're saying you're bankrupt. Period. Empress Elishiva, what did you say? You said, I just told my heirs this once it happened. Yeah. Listen. So all we're doing is swinging all bank credits towards where they can actually be used lawfully and legally. Because no one out there, no one wants anything from the foreign hybrids. No one wants anything from them. And if they don't see us, they're not doing anything. It has to be us, and we actually have to demonstrate unity in order for the nations at earth to feel confident to move forward in all that's being done. We must demonstrate not only government, because see, they want to be sure that as they bring their goods and services and their commerce and merchant actions, that number one, we're not going to break out in some type of a war, which will never happen. Okay? That's never going to happen because we're not at war. We're at peace. We're going to stay at peace. But they want to know that all is well here and that the Moors are fully in charge. And we are. Make no mistake about it, we are. And so that is how commerce is going to start back up again in the favor of the Asiatic, because the Asiatics actually have to do the work. We actually have to come together and do it. And we're unified. We know that we are. We're going to solidify even further that by our economic independence. And when we say independence, that word is not even necessarily correct, because everyone was dependent on us in the first place. So you see how that language just kind of, stuff gets kind of a little discombobulated on that side, but we get it. We all get it. You know. All nations want to know, with regard to what you said, Noble Phoenix, about our bank accepting the Moorish sovereign dollarium from the Moors currently. Yes, we are accepting Moorish sovereign dollarium donations from the Moors, because that energy alone is what has fueled the work that we're doing. That energy alone, those donations alone, and we have received trillions in donations from the Moors, from all over. And the other nations of the earth want to know if we trust our own commerce and our own money. They want to know, well, are they using their own money among themselves? Because that's how we know whether the money is valid or not, is if they're using it among themselves. And we state unequivocally yes. I mean, we actually deposit the donations into the bank and record them. So for our nation and for our national currency, we're using our national currency already, been using it from the very start. Mm-hmm. And then again, Moors, go ahead and send dollarium when you're making statements and sending out documents about, you know, this and that, whatever demonstrations you're doing. Send some dollarium with that. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Empress Elishiva says that her account was locked when she was attempting to do business with another. Once she started placing Moorish documents on the record, it's making her excited to know she's moving correctly, clearing her energy and keeping it moving. When I first did the court action on the nom de guerre and the social, that was on January 1st of 2020. I believe it was either 2020 or 2021. I did a court action on the nom de guerre on the public record. I believe it was 2020. And when I did the court action on January 1st, it was 2020. When I did the court action on the nom de guerre and the social that they had continuously been trying to put on me, I wanted to properly rebut it once and for all. Within 24 hours, my bank account was frozen. But then what happened was, and I told the Moors about this at that time on one of our calls, this is what happened. It froze, and then a few days later, I could just, in the spirit realm, I knew what was happening. I could see the corporate tentacles moving away from the account. I actually could see it before then, because even in 2019, after we started putting liens on all the quote, those previously doing business as banks, the colors in the account changed. At first, all the transactions, whether it was supposedly a debit or credit, whether it was supposedly a debit or credit, all of those transactions, they started turning red and blue, red and blue, red and blue, red and blue. And I told the Moors about this at the time. And that's in the videos out there at Light to Jury Bay channel. And then I even showed it on there where they were red and they weren't black anymore. And so then I did the court action. The account froze for about maybe 5 or 6 days. And then I could just, in the spirit realm, I could see the tentacles move, the corpse dead tentacles moving off that account. And slowly but surely things started unleashing, and I was able to sign in because I was not going to call them and beg and do whatever. I wasn't going to do any of that. I was just going to wait because the ancestors said, just wait, stand still and see the salvation of the law. And I did that. And it took almost 2 weeks, but over that 2-week period, and since then, no one's been able to get in that thing and do anything. Nothing can be done without my permission in there. Nothing comes out without my permission. None of that. So, and all benefits have continued to go in there like they're supposed to, just like it was set up to do. So when we do our demonstrations, there are going to the system is going to respond to the demonstration. We just have to know, number one, don't panic. Don't panic. Just wait and see. Okay? Because see, what they thought that I would do, and I don't know whether they thought this or not, but it didn't matter, was pick up the phone and I can't get I can't get in my account. We weren't going to do any of that. I said, ancestors, y'all told me to do it. Whatever happens, I already know y'all got me. Let's go. And I did it. And sure enough, those corporate tentacles came off of that account. So, one thing we cannot do is let fear freeze us and let fear stop us. That's one thing we cannot do. It's okay to be afraid because we all get scared. Sometimes I've been, in most of my demonstrations, there was a certain amount of fear, but that it can't stop me. I have to go. I have to be myself. And then fortunately, the ancestors have been very gracious in making sure that I have everything that I need while I'm demonstrating. So, and they will do the same. They know what we're doing. They know that we're standing, that we're demonstrating. They know that. And so they're going to look out for us while we do it. Islam. When did your court action, did you also bond the claim? You know what, Justice Noble Fiends, I did not bond the claim. It was bonded by my documentation and the lien. The lien was the bond at the time. The lien was the bond. And so now that that's my memory is that we did bond the claim. At the time, we bonded by way of, and I'll put this on the screen, the way that we were bonding our claims at that time, and most of you will remember this, those who have been on the calls in the past, you will remember at the time that we were bonding our claims by indemnis facier, a $100 million indemnis facier. So I stand corrected myself. We did bond our claims.
Thank you. That's why I asked, because I remember that. I don't know if you were still using it.
Yes. The indemnis facier is the national version of the bond process. So whenever, and this is in the financial records for nations, whenever nations are doing are putting any financial instruments on the public record, they first have to do the financial instrument in their national language first. Then they do it in English and put it into the commercial system. See, the commercial system uses English. Okay? And then but it first has to be created from the sovereign place first. Okay? And that's another reason why the foreign subjects, or the previous ones doing business as colonizers, that's why they had to have us, our assent to everything, our signature on everything, because they know we speak ancient English. They don't have another language that they can create instruments in. The only language that they speak is commerce. It's corporate, dead corporate English.
Correct.
So they had to have us do things in ancient English, which at the time we didn't know we were even speaking a different type of English until we got into those fake courts and we said Constitution, and they did whatever they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Which was commerce for them.
Yes. And for us, it's the supreme law of the land. We didn't know. We do now.
The second part of this, and the reason I brought this up, is because of the Uniform Bonding Code. The common law, that's under common law, and the Uniform Bonding Code was created specifically for the corporations. Why? Because the corporations can't give their word. Their word means nothing because they're soulless entities. Therefore, they all had to be bonded under the Uniform Bonding Code. So when you do your quo warranto from your court and ask them to bring forth the bonds, show me your bonding, and so forth, that means their claim that you have injured them has no validity. That's the importance of bonds. And people have not studied enough and don't know that a lot and understand where that fits in. I only understand it because I come from an insurance background as an underwriter. That's why I understand that. So, and that's why I have to share that, because I know a lot of people don't know that. It'll give them something more to look into and to comprehend the depth of the bonding process, not just for us as a nation, but you and your claims. This is the reason why we have the expression, put your money where your mouth is.
Yes.
In common law, all your claims had to be backed by your commerce. And then when you go back in ancient antiquity, your claims that someone has injured you, you testified. You know what you put up for a man to testify that someone injured him? Your testicles. That's where we get the word testimony. That's how serious it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
people
what did
don't
we
know
put
that.
up?
All right? So put up or shut up. So you don't make false claims, and you don't back it up unless you got some serious, legitimate claims. That's why they also had 2 or more witnesses.
Yeah.
All right. So
I never heard that testicle piece, but you know, I know that the root word is test. I know the root word is test. So, you know, I believe that. I believe that.
It resonates, doesn't it?
Not to the point of that. It doesn't. It's not resonating with me, with my body, but it's resonating.
Yeah.
You know. So I will say that
Islam,
the bonding piece, this national bonding, we're actually bonding our claim that we are the creditors to all the nations at earth. That's what this bonding program is about. Islam Justice Azim.
Yes, testimony. That's basically is the phrase.
It can be that too. Yes. Now that's what I was thinking.
I yield.
Testimony. Islam Empress.
This is A.G. Navi, and I thought about when you said it didn't resonate with you, but I remember seeing bonds when they basically put you in their encampments, and they try to get you to sign a bond, and it says you're heirs. So I think about us as, in our state of being, of what we have in our ovaries.
Oh, yeah. Yes, Empress. Yes. Oh, yes. Speaking of heirs and that whole court process, did you all know that those that were previously doing business as attorneys, the reason why they always muted the heirs and tried to speak for the heirs is because they were claiming to be the heirs. Did you all know that? That they were actually claiming to be the heirs to the estate? And I know we talk about that, but it really it resonated with me in a much deeper way this week as I was watching a video that one of the empresses sent me. Actually, several of the empresses sent me, and I'm so grateful that they did because it was on bonds, and that's why they wanted us to be quiet when fake attorneys spoke in our, when we were in our sleep.
Islam.
Because they were claiming to be the heirs. Yes, Islam, nobility.
There's a very, very interesting point about what you just shared.
Mm-hmm.
An insight that I learned from my journey being there and coming out. Number one of the reasons they do that is because they assume a power of attorney when they assign you an attorney. They assume that position with the power of attorney. And even though when they first grabbed me, I was somewhat, I was totally traumatized because I've never been arrested in my life. That was my first time at 55.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so needless to say, I was dumbfounded, speechless in many ways, and trying to remember what I needed to do. And it was such an overwhelming emotional experience that I was all over the place. And I knew that I'm like, I can't accept your attorney. You do not represent me. I got that much on the record, and then I stated my name and my nationality for the record immediately. However, they went right past me, okay? And they said, well, how do you plead? I'm like, I don't do a plea, blah, blah, blah. The point is, the reason why they're doing that is because what was on the record for me was incomplete. And I understand now what I was missing, okay? Mm-hmm. But secondarily, in order for them to incarcerate and to lock anyone up, watch this carefully, there must be 3 signatures, okay? One from the judge, which they ask the judge, and the judge will sign off on whatever the other 2 agree to. The second one is the prosecutor, and the third one is you. Now, are you ever going to sign yourself into a prison? Which is why they presume, no, you never will, okay? You never will voluntarily, okay? But this is the reason why they assign an attorney for you to turn you over to them. And he signs with the so-called alleged power of attorney for you as a representative of you. You see that? Because they're assuming you are the dead fiction.
Right. Well, they anyone going into their courts, they automatically make you a dead fiction.
Correct.
On paper.
Correct.
That's capitalism.
Correct. And even though I did not consent and told them that, I don't consent to that. I saw that in the chat, and I didn't consent to that. But they still moved on past it. All right? Because I'm doing this by phone, not in person.
Well, that's what I was saying. You were probably responding to them. Correct. When they said something, you responded. That's giving them jurisdiction. That's actually giving them life.
Yeah.
That's why
that little thing, just even responding, you'd be amazed how many times I gave up jurisdiction without knowing it. And that was part of my lesson. Yeah. And it was a harsh lesson. But, I lived. I survived. So but the bonding the bonding piece of that is so important because they still have to have bonds for their claims. And when they don't have one, and you never put one on as the creditor, no matter what the claim is, criminal or otherwise, when you don't put one on the record, guess what? They sell your dishonor and they bond it from your dead part of the estate as a debtor.
And see, that's what I'm saying. They cannot make you anything, okay? They can't make you a fiction. You actually have to consent to being a fiction. How do you do that? When they ask questions and you answer it, it's like you're acknowledging their authority to question you.
But you can't sit there in silence either, because one,
you can do court action. You can do court action. We did it. We had to do it. When your court is speaking, and see, let me tell you something. I overtalked them repeatedly. Overtalked. They were, Miss Ritchie. I don't know who they're talking to. That's not me. So, and I didn't even say I don't know who you talking to. That's not me. I just did court action. Sentence them to 2 weeks in jail, or a constitutional law class, and then this sovereign justice stands as law. And then they would start talking again, trying to do things, and here I go, all rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. And I did that for 10 days straight. And they knew then that I don't care what you do with this one right here. She ain't giving y'all jurisdiction. You don't have it. And by the time I got out of there, the people that was in that building that I was at was gone. Those unlawful occupying spirits that was in there, gone. And they had marked the thing vacant. Mm-hmm. We wasn't giving up jurisdiction, and we ain't going to never give it up because our courts are stronger than that. No, I did not attend any of their courts. I wasn't going to, and they knew it. They knew it. So, Noble Phoenix, we honor that you stood, though. You stood in the way that you knew how. And that goes for all the Moors who have been detained. We honor you with our highest honor because at least you spoke up. That is the highest honor to you, always, forever. Because this is a standing process. This is a rising process. This is a grand rising. Our ancestors know what they're doing with us too. Okay. And Empress, thank you for putting that in the chat. Empress Shea Marie put a definition in the chat. It says attorney. In the most general sense, this term denotes an agent or substitute or one who is appointed and authorized to act in the place or stead of another. That is a bit of a hypothecated definition, but that's the one that they were going by because they're incompetent. Yes, when used with reference to the proceedings of courts or the transaction of business in the courts, the term always means attorney at law. And for them, there's no such madness as an attorney at law because they're not the law. They don't ever do the law. It's, yeah. So that's why when we say we're attorney in fact, a crime is not a fact. A crime is someone's accusation or claim. So there's no need to plead to a crime. No such thing exists.
Islam.
It has to be a fact.
Actually, attorney at law is very accurate for them.
It is because
because they are, like when you, for example, you're standing at the house.
That means you're not in there.
The house.
That's true.
They're not in law, they're at law, outside of it.
Yeah.
So that's actually very accurate.
Yeah.
But it said attorney in fact. That's not at facts, it's in fact.
Yes. Yes.
Big difference, at or in.
Yeah. Islam. There it is. We stand competent. This nation stands competent. This government stands competent. Islam, Justice Izine.
Yes, getting back to the fake attorney. Number one, they always use the expression, I represent this client. They do not represent anybody. Number one is they represent you. They do not represent you. Whereby representing you is just like turning you in a 360-degree angle, whereby they are repositioning you to be a debtor, a corpse, sitting there, because that so-called judge on the bench cannot deal directly with you because you are a flesh and blood living being. He cannot deal with you. So when the jury, for instance, say, well, they so-called criminal case, they say, well, what is your verdict? Guilty or non-guilty or not guilty? One person stands up and say, we find him guilty. The problem with that is they have to have that so-called party who is there as a criminal be in the position of, number one, it is the fake attorney's duty to represent him, to groom him into a position as a debtor, because he's not a debtor. He's representing him to the court so the court can communicate through their agent, which is this fake attorney, whereby taking on a subrogated position from the living, breathing person. And that so-called fake attorney is now testifying on behalf of that living person, because that court nor that so-called jury can deal directly with the living, breathing person, living person.
Being.
Which is the living being. Yeah, the living being. And other words, that is the bottom line duty of the fake attorney, is to represent that person, whereby the false fake judge can communicate with that so-called victim. Well, not victim, the criminal, which he's not a criminal. But the point is, once he gives consent to his fake attorney to represent him, now he's in the jurisdiction of that so-called court. Without giving consent to that attorney, he's still a living, breathing being, and always will be. So that's the duty of the fake attorney. He's just a partner with the so-called prosecuting attorney and the so-called fake judge, because basically the judge is taking on a dual position. He really is a fake attorney because he's carrying a bar card, and which is supposed to be so-called illegal. That's totally against all rules. To be a legitimate so-called judge is to give up your bar card. Not one sitting so-called judge is on a bench without his bar card or her bar card. So I yield.
Well, there it is. I will say this, Justice, let's see. You know, Justice Travis, you said you have to consent to be a person. Right, but we could never be persons. Even though we control and own persons, we could never be persons. We are the fiduciaries for persons. A person, by definition, is a minor or an incompetent. That's what a person is. A minor or an incompetent. In our case, a person is an heir that is not mature. An heir that cannot govern their own vast estate. That's what the all caps is a body that cannot govern its own vast estate. So we have to do it as the heirs, the sovereigns. That's what an all caps is. It's an instrument that we use. That's it. It's a creditor instrument for us. It's a debtor and a dead instrument for the debtor, dead United States Corporation Company. We're the living creditor, States United. Always. Always have been, always will be. So, with that being said, are there any other comments? Wisdom? Islam,
Shasha Anbay here. Jamaica.
Islam.
Territory. I had an issue a couple of days ago. I went to the post office, and I don't know if you recall, well, over a month ago, I had gone and I had a pile of government mail, and I was very shocked that the woman took everything, counted it, 10, and I walked out and was kind of like, wow, this worked, you know. Well, I went a couple of days ago to mail some other documents, and this former custodian had my pile of government mail there with dust on top of it, telling me that I need to put stamps on it. And I followed the process, our government mailing process, and I said to her, I did say to her before I ended up doing a court action, and if I may, I'd love to share the 2 minutes of it to maybe get some feedback, because I didn't have it written down and it was off the top of my head, and I was a little
I have a question.
Yes.
On the envelopes on the outside.
Yes.
In the upper left corner where it was your mailing location, did you have a zip code or anything there?
No, I have the what do you call it? The natural or I had the coordinates and what is it? The natural.
The latitude and longitude and the natural area code.
What I have is the what do you call it? The other shorter version of numbers and letters.
The natural area code?
Yes. Yes, I have that on there. And that's it. I've got.
And what color is the ink? It's in red.
I took these labels straight off of the process that.
And then, okay, and then wherever you were sending it to, what did that address look like?
It's in blue. And I have the brackets. Well, actually, those ones I'd have to look in my mail. The one that I'd have to look in my photos, but I do believe they're all the same. Those ones were addresses, labels that I took directly from, because they were lean, the mayor, former custodian, the mayor's office in Washington, D.C., and so they were printed straight from that, which is underneath, I took it from documents underneath the video, because it was even in the template, and then the other, so the top right-hand corner is the no postage necessary.
And then did you put the certified green?
Certified mail and the green card, and I mean, as far as I can see, as far as I know, I did it exactly as the process.
I would like to see the envelopes, because generally
you'll see it actually. Maybe let me see. I'm going to put the video in.
Okay.
That would probably be the easiest way to.
Okay, let me see if I can switch presenter.
Oh, you want me to just play it? I was going to just put it in the chat. Okay, let me see.
Oh, yeah, you can put it in the chat. You can put it in the chat.
That might be a little easier. And this is me and my court action. So, give me feedback, because I did this off the fly. I was just a little.
And what was the outcome? Did they give you all those packages back?
I didn't take them, because I said, by law, they're delivered from me putting them on your counter or you counting them, or And so I walked away.
Empress, listen, just listen. Empress,
Yes.
you always do everything perfectly. I don't know why you even question, because that's the exact same thing I would have done. Notice the agent is notice the principal. Notice the principal is notice the agent.
Okay.
And they know that. That's what I'm saying.
So I'm just trying to find my video. There it is. I was like, here it is. I do believe this is it. Let me hope it's not. Do you see something in there? Did it reach?
In the chat?
In the chat.
No, it didn't.
Okay.
But what we'll do is give us the link. We'll look at it after the meeting.
Okay.
And then we'll critique and are we able to connect on WhatsApp, Empress? I know we do by text, but can we call each other?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We've talked on WhatsApp before. I mean, I'd really like to know, because I'm saying to myself, what's my next move? I've leaned the postmaster general.
Your next move is to move on and don't worry about it. I've done that several times in the past now.
So, but my question then is, if I have other things to mail, do I just drop them at the counter? I mean, if you get what I'm saying?
Do they not have the deposit box?
No. I'll have to find one. There are, but I'd either have to go to town.
No, there should be one in the post office that you use.
No, darling. And listen to me. This, I'm sorry, I'm just, but this, let me tell you what the post office is.
Mm-hmm.
It is a one room.
Yeah.
The acting postmistress, Marcia Ray, has a Nokia, what one refers to as a, what do they call them, scammer phone, okay? There is no phone, there is no computer. There is, I'm not even certain that there is a bathroom.
Okay, so if it has the words post office on the outside of it?
You know, I'm going to have to, yes, it does, because it's the post office, and if you go on to the Jamaica Post, which is actually, that's the corporation over the top of the, what is it, Post and Telecommunications, I mean, I leaned the proper, but anyway, go down there, you try to, if you want to find where all the post offices and postal annexes are on the island.
If they're doing business as the post office, then notice the agent is still notice the principal.
And that's
so
what I did.
He's going to have to deal with that.
So they are going to, I mean, but I don't have to do anything other than, because I've leaned them. I had actually leaned. Yes.
The inclination might be not to go back there because of that. I go back. Yes, you are the law, okay?
Because I thought, because I've done the lien on the head, the former custodian, and I actually leaned prior to going. I leaned the two locations that are my two closest. One's a postal annex, one's a. I did that before I went. It's almost like Spirit was talking to me, because then I went and was met with this. And
is the one that you went to the annex?
No, that was the post office.
Okay.
And so my question is, because yes, I will keep going.
Yes, you keep going and put them on the counter and walk out. You don't have to have conversation with them.
But, and I realize that too. So in that case then, what if I am mailing something that really and truly, and everything is important. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and I need to know it's going to where it needs to get to. And, I don't need to know that she's sitting there building dust on it so she can plant some tulips to come up next spring. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, so who is her, in her chain of subjects, who's over her? Isn't there a postmaster general?
General, which is me. I mean, but
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Former custodian, the de facto, is the postmaster general.
Okay, so that particular subject may need to be made aware. Just send a photo. Just go in, take a photo of the thing sitting there, and do an affidavit, a court action affidavit stating what needs to happen with them.
Okay, because I was thinking in those terms. Put the video up. Do an affidavit. Send everything that he needs to know, which he knows, because I've sent things.
So let me just say this. When they see an address, they know what to do. So I can't even say that she may not know what to do with them, because she does know what to do with them.
She knows what to do. And the thing about it is, I had with her prior, she refused to take my national ID. I explained to her the law. This was before I even knew about court actions or anything like that. I have that video too. She refused me service because she said that ID was an ID, and I know. And
what kind of service was it that you were doing?
Well, I was trying to actually send some government documents, but I didn't know about the mailing process at that point.
Right.
So we hadn't even got to the point where even fiat was going to be exchanged. She just refused. I gave her a national ID, and I did understand at that point that this was an ID, and it superseded the de facto identification.
So here's my suggestion. Get a post office manual.
Okay.
Get a post office manual, and I've had to do this too. Get a post office manual or go online.
I think I have one actually, so I'm gonna.
Okay. And point out in a one-page affidavit where she is to do as commanded, because you're really not talking to her, you're talking to the system.
Right.
So do a one-page affidavit and just put it on the counter and walk out and so that you notify her that you know what the job is.
Okay.
Okay. I had to do that even during quote-unquote COVID.
Okay.
I had to actually pull up the codes and statutes where it says certain things that tell them that they still can't tell me what to do, period. They don't have jurisdiction. You got to have jurisdiction to tell somebody what to do.
What to do? I even told.
But I had to pull the codes out. I couldn't just say that, even though it's true.
Right. And yesterday I did look up. There's certain codes that relate exactly to the post office, and the various. You have to mail it. You have to handle it, and it has to go. Otherwise, there's certain, remedy, and there's
remedy for that. But your court should be speaking that to them by affidavit. Don't conversate with them by affidavit.
I was wondering, should I? Because I was thinking I would need to. Those affidavits would go to her superiors, but then you're saying.
I'm saying give her one and give her
superior.
Give her the superior custodian one, definitely.
As well.
Yeah.
Okay. I think, thank you, because I'm telling you, it's like, even though, as I said, I walked out, I told her it's delivered.
Yeah, it is. But I would say that the conversation with them back and forth is not productive for any of us.
No, and I realized that I did do this was in.
I
did a court action. I did actually do a court action, and like you
there
said,
it is.
I spoke over her because she kept saying Miss something, and whatever and I just spoke over her, and then when I did leave, I just said it's delivered by law. And I spun and I left at that point, but it was. I know I probably didn't have every single thing in there, but it was enough. I know that was sufficient to get to certainly state jurisdiction.
Yes. And now look at the postal codes.
Yeah, I have them in
and
a
find just 2 or 3 that are pertinent. 1 or 2 or 3 that are pertinent to what you're saying, what you're stating. Put it in an affidavit, and one on the counter where she is, and then 1 by mail to her, to the head custodian.
Well, I will do email and mail. That's what I will do. So then I'll know that it actually reached, and it will have to. She'll have to send it. I mean, there is no matter how long she takes, but it will have to happen because that's my command.
Of course, and here's the other part of that. When they receive things and they accept them, acceptance is a financial exchange. Right. And when they accept them, that, and especially the post office, when the post office accepts something, then they literally must go by the law with that parcel that they've accepted.
And that I actually did say it's once it's accepted, it's received. You counted them. You mean it's delivered.
Yeah.
Because that stands as law, does it not? That it was, that's the proof.
Yes. Now, we do, and this is to all Moors, we do have to ensure that our energy when we're doing things like that is as clear as it can be, because sometimes energies can be high in those when we demonstrate. But we have to ensure that we're not warring, or that we're not, and that you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying.
Absolutely. I mean, when I went in there, I was actually going in there expecting everything to be totally, and that's why I wanted to share the video, because you can hear my energy. But I really and truly, I felt like I did hold it nicely and was very noble in my
that's important.
And because I didn't even leave, with a sense of sort of having my, I just left. Shaking my head, but I left knowing that I had done the right thing, at least for me at that time, and with the knowledge that I had. So,
and that's what counts. That's what counts. And now I would just grab their policy book.
Yeah.
And just put it in an affidavit, put it on the counter for their notification.
That's it. Yeah.
And that you have elevated that code up to the law. Because it's not the law when they write it, it's the law when we write it.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Islam.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Empress.
Islam. It's not one thing, it's another.
You know what? And we got this, though. We got it.
Yes, we
Our
have.
courts have it, really. Our courts. I mean, when we speak by court action.
And that was the other thing, because my handbag is actually a handmade flag. I made a handbag. So I was traveling with my pass and signal.
Yeah.
So thank you. Matondo Mamingi Islam.
Matondo Mamingi Izola.
Islam.
Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom from this grand congressional assembly? Islam,
Empress.
Islam.
One question: would we go over the Jones Act at next assembly, or did I miss that one?
You did not miss the Jones Act. Something else, some other things came up, some other awarenesses came up between that time in the Jones Act.
Okay.
But the Jones Act, it was just state, and I think we actually voted on it that day, didn't we? Or did we say we were going to study it? We said we were going to study it, I think.
Yeah, I think we said we were going to study it.
Yeah. The Jones Act is regarding whether we will allow a foreign vessel to dock at our port and then go and deliver something to another one of our ports. And we don't want anything foreign going on around here. We just don't. Nothing foreign. Either they're in subject status or they're not here. Period. You know. But we were going to study the Jones Act and then talk about it, because that's something that came up with regard to the vessels that have been waiting outside the ports. They want to know from us and hear from us on the public record how we feel about that. And, you know.
I just saw that the island nations, the island sovereigns are really suffering behind the Jones Act. So, yeah, you know.
How do you see that they're suffering, just really quickly?
The cost of shipping, all of the vessels have to be flagged from the U.S., manufactured by the quote-unquote U.S., or else they won't dock. So they have to get all of their goods from quote-unquote U.S. vessels, and that creates a higher cost for them getting their goods. Hawaii.
Well, the way around that is a court action that puts all vessels properly flagged and properly identified in subject status if they're not our vessels.
I just happened to read that, and I thought, it's something that we may be able to help.
Yes, we do as a Congress need to vote on that and put it on the public record, so that because it will even affect them when we put it on the public record, because we're the government.
Right. It's really something we should look at in terms of commerce. It's kind of interesting what's going on with that.
So, nobility, if Moors, if you would please study the Jones Act, and we can vote on it next meeting. And nobility, if you would please remind me next meeting that we're going to vote on it. I already know what it's about, and anytime I hear the word foreign, it automatically translates to subject to me.
So, I started mentioning Islam.
Yeah, Islam. Thank you for that, nobility, and thank you for the reminder. We do need to go ahead and address that, because the ships are waiting out there, and it's got, the supply chain and the, all of that stuff, all the logistics is waiting on us to do what we have to do in terms of putting that on the public record. And one thing I know about them is and I'm not taking a casual attitude, but they have to wait until we get to those subject matters. And so we might as well, since you brought it up again, let's vote on that next time. On the vote is whether we wanted to waive the Jones Act or not. Well, we're not. I can tell you that we're not waiving anything. We're going to state the law with regard to the Jones Act, with regard to what the ship should be doing. And we can use the language in the Jones Act, but we have to reconstruct the Jones Act.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it's not that long. It's a couple of paragraphs, maybe not even a couple of paragraphs. Probably just a few sentences. Yeah, we don't just waive things. We state them and give commands. So, please remind me next meeting so that we can do that, and I'll take a look at the Jones Act again. I know a little bit more about it now, but I need to actually put eyes on it, and then we'll bring it up in the next meeting. So is there anything else that this Congress needs to put on the record or bring up? Any other issues that you all see that we need to rule on? If you can think of any, please let us know next meeting, because we needed to first, I think, I will say this, we have made so much progress that it's just amazing. We've gotten so much done and so much on the public record, and now we can actually breathe a little bit and open up the table for more things to be put on the table. Certain things we had to get it on the table immediately because there's so much being affected by it. But yes, if you see anything that we need to address, because see, even when it comes to things like cryptocurrency and stuff, they actually are waiting for us to regulate that. When it comes to government records, they're actually waiting for us to regulate all of that, to regulate it. And we regulate by our vote on the public record. We overstand it, we study it, overstand it, talk about it together, and then regulate it. So with that being said, we will adjourn at this time, and we will meet again on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday being the 11th of December. Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural divine heirs. Islam.
Islam, peace and grand rising.
Islam, peace and grand rising.
Islam.
Islam, peace and grand rising.
Islam, grand rising.
Peace and love. Islam.
Islam.
Grand rising.
Peace and grand rising.
Islam.
Peace and love.
Islam. And we will adjourn in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Peace and grand rising.